Hello, everyone. I'm Ed Roman, and today I'll be interviewing Mikael Cho from Ooomf. And this interview is going to be basically an overview of Ooomf. It's a great startup company that's fundraising right now on AngelList. I'm an angel investor. You can find out more about me at angel.co/EDRO or on my syndicates, angel.co/EDRO/syndicate. So, Mikael, it's great to meet you. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Ed. How are you?
I'm great. So I noticed Ooomf is fundraising on AngelList, and I was very impressed by the AngelList profile that you guys created.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought my audience might want to learn more about you guys. So why don't we start talking about what kind of problem Ooomf is trying to solve today?
Sure, yeah, and just a bit of background on the company in general. So we're based in Montreal, Canada. I'm originally from the U.S. I came up to Canada for a girl about 5 years ago. Great decision. We're engaged now, so everything is good there. And we decided to actually start a company, and we went through an accelerator program. And so now we're doing our round of investment. And actually, a lot of what is built into Ooomf and what we're looking to solve are problems that I used to face in the agency world and as an independent designer. So there's all kinds of issues with getting screwed over on contracts, and how do you make sure that when you're working remotely or you're working with people all over the world, that process is safe and secure and transparent. And sort of what we're looking to do is give that power to each independent creative professional so they can sort of be their one-man agency, and we provide all of the little tools that they don't necessarily want to deal with, things like sourcing projects, things like budgeting, payments. So we build that all into a platform, and then they can just focus on the creative work.
Okay, that's great. That makes sense. Thanks. So tell me more. So you have a technical background then?
So my background, so I originally started in marketing and product management, and then that expanded into design. So I was working at an agency, and I decided to leave there and do more independent design. So my interest was shifting more into the creation side. But then now I sort of do a little bit of both, a lot less dealing with product now. It's more on sort of the marketing and biz dev side. So I sort of have a background in both, and my original sort of degree was in psychology. So there's a lot of crossover from that into, I think, almost anything. Like, I'm noticing it a ton, especially on the web and mobile. Just little things that all sort of root back to psychology.
That's very interesting. And how about the rest of your team? What's their background? And how do you guys meet?
Yeah, we're a team of 4. There's 2 mainly focused on product, and 2 of us are on biz dev and marketing. So one of our CTO, he was actually founder of another company in our accelerator. And the other engineer, he came from university here in Canada. He's a designer developer, super talented. And our 4th member is Steph. She's an actuary. She actually handles all of our marketing and community and data and operations.
Okay, makes sense. So tell me, how did you originally get this idea? Where did the idea come from?
Yeah, it came from a lot of those pain points that I had felt like, especially as an independent designer. Mm-hmm. So going and finding high quality contracts to work on could sometimes take 80% of your time when you were only doing maybe 20% of the design work, which was your favorite part. So I started to think about, how could we fix those processes for designers everywhere, because this was sort of a big problem. You're trying to match people who are in the industry with people who think this industry is very foreign. Someone who has never built a website, who never built a mobile app, you don't even know the difference between design and development. So how do we sort of make it so it's possible for anyone to do this for the first time and do it with professionals who are really good and have done this hundreds of times?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So had you tried other websites to find contractors like Elance or Odesk or sites like that, and had you come up short?
Yeah, so I never made a profile or anything on the sites. I did go and sort of check them out. It didn't really vibe. It sort of felt more like a flea market type feel. It's like, here's the product, here's what I'm willing to pay, and let's see, who I can get. Whether it's $10 for a website or $50 for a website, that's what I'm going to put and see what I can get for it. So there wasn't a mark for quality, And a lot of professionals in the space started to realize that. So most of them, from what I saw, they weren't joining those sorts of sites. So there was a need for a network of those really strong professionals, I think, to help them with that. It's like deal flow, for an investor. It's the same thing. You have to create projects. And as an independent contractor, you're always afraid of that 1 month where the projects drop off and you're kind of like, I don't have a steady stream. So we wanted to fix that. We wanted to be a steady stream of quality projects for high quality professionals.
Makes sense. Okay. So this website, assuming that you can grow this into a fairly large company, what does the market look like here? How big is this market?
Yeah, so if we look at online contracting right now, it's about $1 billion market that was created in the last 5 years that didn't exist before. But what's interesting is the average project budgets for a lot of these sites is between about $250 and $500 for software projects. And this is actually much different than what the actual industry averages are. So if you look at our average budgets, it's about $5,000. So that's 10 times these other platforms. And our projects range between about $500 and $1,000 all the way up to $50,000. So this is much more representative of the actual software as a services industry, which is about $26 billion. And it's sort of a free-for-all right now. It's sort of like the Wild Wild West. You have independent contractors, you have agencies, there's no transparency. If you were to go out and get a quote for your website, you could get something from $1,000 to $10,000 to $50,000 for the exact same thing. So we're trying to create that layer of transparency.
Okay, makes sense. So let's go into a little bit more detail about your company. I kind of want to grill you a little bit about how you're doing things at Ooomf. So first of all, let's start with the name. So the name is Ooomf with 3 O's. Let's be honest, that's not the most memorable name. Where did that come from, and what do you think about doing about that name? Are you going to keep that name?
Yeah. Well, I think Ooomf is actually a memorable name, but I think the issue is spelling it, and that's where the memory is an issue. Triple O, how do I remember that? The F instead of the PH. So we have those issues, and it's something that we're actually working on in terms of a rebrand. It originally came from this concept of like pushing something. So we're going to help push a project for you, or we're going to help push your mobile app. Mm-hmm. So take it to the next level. So that's where the original name came from.
Mm-hmm. I noticed that actually there's a community for designers called Dribble with 3 B's as well, and they seem to be very, fairly successful.
Yeah.
So there is one data point.
Yeah. No, I think it's less now about having necessarily the name is going to make the company. I think having a good name is good, but right now it's all about creating value in whatever market you're in, and then people, sort of the internet is really good at helping other people find good things. Mm-hmm. It's getting much and much better. So I think it's less of the name making the company, but it still is sort of a factor so people can actually spell it properly.
Makes sense. So tell us more about how the matchmaking works. So you're basically creating a two-sided marketplace here.
Yep.
You've got designers and developers on one side of the marketplace, then you've got folks who want projects done. How do you match those designers and developers to the projects?
Right. So first what we do is we have a database of all the projects that we've seen. So there's mobile, web, design, development, and we ask for about 7 different variables up front when a project is being submitted. So what stage of the project you're at, how many screens, what features are you looking for, and over time we're sort of collecting all of this data to be able to properly estimate projects going forward for what quality talent is looking for. And this hasn't been done before. So it's sort of like when you go on eBay now and you list your iPhone from 2007 with these specs, they're going to say, here's the price. If you want to sell this today, this is the price that you should put it at. So that's essentially what we're doing in this services space. So cleaning up something that might take, right now, could take months. If you're working with a budget with a company or a contractor, it can take a long time to get it right. Whereas with us, you're doing it in less than a minute. Mm-hmm. So you're sort of submitting a project, clicking through these variables, and we're recommending what you should put your budget at. So that's a main piece on the front side to help someone who may never have built a website before.
How do you recommend a price for a project? I mean, is that automatable? Is that something that you guys do manually?
Yeah, so it's part manual, part automation right now. But we're about 50% of the way to automation of where we want to be. So we view it as the point, we ask the same variables for every project. So we know more or less, like, this is a ballpark budget for what this should cost. Yeah, it might be a couple hundred here or there if it's like a massive project and it's hard to estimate up front. But we can put a strong ballpark figure that's respectable for talent.
So are you saying that it's possible theoretically to make an automated system eventually that will ballpark estimate out a project? And
yes.
How could you build a system like that? I mean, what kind of metadata could the user provide that will give you that information so you can automate it?
Right. So we're already collecting a lot of the major variables, but there'd be more sort of advanced variables that you'd want to collect. So, for example, if it was a design project and someone wanted flat versus something that was more 3D or textured, we could get some real data around that based on past projects that have been designed with flat or that have been designed in 3D. So we can collect enough data points for each type of project where you can come up with something that's representative of what this should cost.
Mm-hmm. Now, oftentimes with software projects, at least in my experience, there's always been feature creep where there's new features that the client needs, or sometimes the client doesn't even know exactly what he needs.
Right.
So how do you deal with these kind of malformed projects where the requirements change over time?
Right. So up front, we do the vetting, and that's built into the system. And then there's a certain point right now where you'll actually talk with your professional once you've been matched. So within 24 to 48 hours, you'll receive a match based on all the variables that you put in, and it's the best match for everything that you're looking for. So if you need to design, developer, mobile app that's social and can do these 4 features, here's the best person who is available and interested right now. But what we're going to be doing is actually going a step further where that developer can actually start to recommend on your project budget certain things that they still need to know. So exactly what you were saying, you're sort of getting help from this developer before starting the project in order to make sure that you're doing the right things. You don't want to build this random feature that has nothing to do with this. And we're also trying to make it as simple as possible for the developer to give that, so he's not spending tons of time diving into a project and trying to piece it apart and lose the contract for some reason. So trying to simplify that so much so that it just takes a minute, potentially, and really speeds those processes up.
Okay, great. So how are you guys going to get distribution here? Because you're building a two-sided marketplace. You have to attract the talent. You're looking to find great designers, great developers. That's pretty much what every company in Silicon Valley is looking to find, right?
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing to find. And then you got to find the clients to serve. So how do you find both sides of that marketplace?
All right. So on the talent side, we actually have a strong network already. We have about 370 or so members inside of the system, and another 4,000 plus that are on the waiting list. So they've all submitted projects. We ask for personal portfolios, emails, social, so everywhere they are in terms of Twitter, Dribble, Stack Overflow, and we use that to evaluate the members. So what we look to do is we actually look to give each member almost full-time work, essentially, through the year. So we'd rather have fewer members than having like 300 members where we're each giving them 70 to 100K worth of projects in a year, versus having 10,000 members inside, and on average, everyone's making like $400. So we want to create a system that acts as the steady stream of quality work on that side. And we're good there for a while in terms of the numbers that we have right now. But a lot of what we're doing to cultivate that community is creating tools that are useful. So there's a lot of utility that we've created. We built a product called howmuchtomakeanapp.com, which actually works on every screen, and designers and developers can use it with clients. They can go out and estimate a project. Really simple. We use the data, again, from our past projects to help. And they can just sort of click through the features that they're looking for, and they'll say, hey, here's the budget that this should cost roughly, and you can share this and print it and send it to me, whatever you want to do. So we've created tools like that to help facilitate the building of that side of the marketplace. And on the project side, we've done a lot of similar things. So content has been huge. We started writing on Medium very, very early, and now we have a lot of content syndicate partnerships that help us reach that audience. And there's big pieces in terms of utility that we'll be building into the marketplace to really help grow that side.
Okay, makes sense. So on the scale side of things, so right now your MVP is done. You've got revenue in the door. It's growing every month.
Yep.
What does this business look like at scale? Is there a scalable distribution model that you kind of have in your mind for locking up both sides of that marketplace?
Yeah, so we think, so right now we do a 15% commission on each project. That is the major piece of the business model. But once we build utility into this, so a place where we want to go, for example, payment is a huge issue in this space. So if you're working with someone here in the US and you're working with someone in the UK, how do you deal with that payment? How do you deal with transferring it with people not losing their source code, or making sure payment doesn't get lost? How much are those fees? What's the transfer rate? So we actually have that system already built, but it's only for Oomph members. So the way we sort of envision this is this piece in itself could be used for anybody that is doing work, whether they're getting it through our system or not. This is still a product that a lot of people would find value in itself. So this little project management element that we have built that also has the payment feature, and we do escrow payments. So it's sort of, if you are working on a project, you can break it up into 5 different milestones, and you can deliver payments once you approve the results, and the payment is held into the system. It prevents all those issues that happen all the time in this space. So there's definitely a need there, and we see there's some potential that we can solve that.
So you think maybe you could either open source that tool or give it away as a stealth way to kind of generate leads from both sides of the marketplace, you're thinking?
Correct, yeah. So it's almost like if you were an agency, for example, and you needed a place to manage all your freelancers and pay them out, this would be the place for that.
I see. Very nice. Okay. So how do you screen for quality? So, you're promising, very high quality designers and developers. That's your differentiator from like an Elance or an Odesk.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know that these guys are any good?
Yeah, so up front, we'll ask for email, personal portfolio, and 3 examples of live projects. For example, our vetting process for mobile, you must have built an app that's 4 stars or better and in the App Store with a minimum of 20 reviews. So that's the bar there. And we look at a wide variety of factors to sort of determine if you're a good fit. But that's one example with mobile. With software and web, it's a little bit different. We have to look at code quality, but we do those sorts of reviews. So we do an in-depth review, and we're actually going to be going even deeper. So we're going to be looking at traction. How did this project actually do? How are the load times? What's things like that somebody who may have never built a website wouldn't know the difference. But we're sort of making that transparent and putting that up front.
Are you going to have reviews as well?
Yeah, so eventually there will be a review process built into the system. And the reason we haven't done it yet is just because the product was so early, and that's really for repeat projects and keeping the quality very high from members who are doing lots of consistent work. So we first focused on getting consistent work for a lot of the members, but that's something that we'll look at in the future.
Okay. So what is the defensibility around this idea? I mean, you're creating a 2-sided marketplace here. What's preventing a competitor from doing something similar to this?
So a lot of the matching that we do is a technical challenge. It's very challenging to sort of find the right budget mix with all the variables that you're looking for and match the right person in less than a day, for example, which is what we do right now. So that's a piece of technology that is very important to us. And it's also sort of the quality of the network that we have right now. So we have members who don't sign up anywhere else, but they sign up for our site. So there's an element there which is, it's hard to say that it's a technical reason, but you have people on your site that don't go anywhere else and everybody else wants them.
Makes sense. Okay. So in your mind, I mean, let's be really honest here. What are you scared of? So, you run this business every single day. What do you think could go wrong with this business? What keeps you up at night?
Yeah, so the major things, it's less about competition. So for me and for our team, a lot of it is delivering what we want to deliver to both sides of our marketplace. So we are crazy about making sure we're giving you quality people on either side. We want to make sure that your projects and we're getting good people coming in that have great projects to the talent, and vice versa. So that is sort of like all consuming for us. How do we tweak the system and always make sure that we're getting the right types of projects and the right types of people inside of the system and coexisting and working functionally. So that is a major, major thing that we think about. So really just catering to the people that make our platform work is the main piece, because as you know, with Marketplace, a lot of them are just based on the people that are involved in it. So catering to them and making sure the community is doing really, really well, that's a lot of our time and focus is spent on that.
And is there anything that's patentable here in terms of the IP or the technology that could disrupt competitors?
Yeah. So the matching process, definitely, there's a lot of elements there that are unique to our platform and what we're doing. So that will get faster and faster. The goal for us will be almost instant. So you'll have this project, we'll be able to go through all your variables, give you a budget recommendation, match you, and you're starting work essentially in a few minutes. That's where we want to get this to.
Okay. Are you scared at all of disintermediation? Right? So what I mean by that is, I sign up as a client. I want to use Ooomf to start a new project. I do a little project with one of your contractors, and then after that, I don't need you anymore. I just go direct to that contractor, and you guys get cut out. So how do you prevent that, or do you prevent that?
Yeah. So what happens a lot when you're doing your first project, it's you're putting in your payment, you're putting in all the transfer of files that are there, you're getting used to the system. So even if you're running a small project and it goes really well, the payment is transferred easily, if you decide to take it out, now you're going to have to deal with a lot of those things yourself. And it can be very challenging. And especially even our professionals, the reason they sign up for our site is so they don't have to deal with those things. So it's sort of like, I was driving in an Uber in San Francisco the other day, and we took a cab around San Francisco, but then we needed to go to Palo Alto, and we were going to take the same driver. So we didn't really know how to do that inside of the system properly. So we're like, okay, well, we can pay you however you want. And he's like, well, I want to do it in Uber because it's just really easy. So let's figure out this tricky way to do it properly. And that was pretty cool. He wanted to do it so bad through the system because there was so much value there. And that's the way that we approach what we're building and being able to prevent those things from happening.
Okay. So tell us how your revenue and your growth rate's been.
Yeah. So we were fundraising. We started fundraising in about August, September. Things filled up pretty quick, and a lot of it was because we had been growing 30% month over month over the past 6 months when we were fundraising. So that was a huge piece for us, and we looked at that number. I'd read Paul Graham's things about growth, and always try to find sort of a target. What is that magical number that you need to have? And I sort of saw that over and over, 30%. So I'm like, okay, let's target this. Let's see what we can do. And the first product we built, took a week. It was a MailChimp and a Wufoo form. And whatever numbers we got from that, this was in February, we said, we're going to do 30% month over month, whatever it takes from this point. And that's what we did. And it once you sort of have that in your head that you have to hit that, it forces you to do anything sort of to get there. You have to be creative. You can't just rely on existing channels. You need to keep sort of on your toes and keep innovating. So that was super useful to see that you can make it happen. You have this end number and you make it happen.
Makes sense. And are there any competitors right now that's doing anything similar to this, or are you guys on your own?
There's a couple people that are doing things that are similar, but for us, it's really, we know the problems in the space. We've seen it firsthand on both sides, and it's a very clear sort of direction where we want to go with this. There hasn't really been someone who's taken this higher sort of premium side of the marketplace. We definitely see ourselves fitting there.
Makes sense. Okay, great. Well, that's all the questions I have. So, Mikael, I want to thank you so much again for coming today and talking to everyone. I think this should save a lot of people time when trying to understand what is Ooomf, maybe considering an investment decision in Ooomf.
Yep.
Again, if you guys want to find out more about me, you can look me up at angel.co/edro. And Mikael, I want to thank you again.
Thank you, Ed.
Okay, take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.